Hello YouTube creators and subscribers, I just wanted to thank you all for tuning into my video. Today we're going to be going through the Books of Earths. So let's begin. The Books of Earths, Man's Quest in Space. The Book of Earths begins so many years ago with a single little figure of the Earth taken from what old book I do not know. For a long time it laid by myself. Then another came upon by chance, was laid beside it, and still others as I happened on them, always by chance. Old, odd maps joined the casual collection of maps of the earth, the moon, the heavens. It was never a collection in the usual sense of the word, because it was so casual, but such as it was the origin of this book, for it occurred to me not long ago that it would be fun to put them all together, and many others with them, choosing to fill in the gaps of the original group. Luckily, for the fun of it, the search about to begin would not be limited to what we know about the earth, else it would ended before it began, for we live in a universe of which we know little, and on a planet for which we know perhaps less. It would include not only what we know or think today we know, but also anything that was believed or felt or no more than guessed to be the picture of the earth and its place in the universe. I would include not only science, modern and ancient, but tradition, the older the better, diagrams or pictures based on little more than folklore, cosmologies of religions, great and small, cosmologies of philosophers, of poets and savages. It would gather together, pictured, theories, guesses, hypotheses, and merely flights of pure imagination, whether true or false, today, since history teaches us nothing if it does not teach us that one century's false doctrine is another century's truth, and that the mistakes of any age or race are quite as illuminating as any truth by which it lived. This collection of pictures, therefore, would not be scientific, not selected to prove one thing or to disprove another, not to prejudge by any standard, but that of a record told in pictures and diagrams of what man has guessed this earth to be ever since he first began to wonder what the figure of the body was on which he lived. It would be free play through sources, once those sources were discovered, play unhampered by any necessary for judgment and criticism, since what was sought was the record only. And so the search began, and the story of the search is personally as interesting as what is uncovered. It would be endless, that was clear from the beginning, so it must be made deliberately brief. I could not include everything, even if everything came promptly to the surface, but there was highlights in the record, thus began to show dimly from the first. The rest was a matter of blazing an unpathed trail that would lead to the goal, the record, but the most allowed for the twists and turns by paths, now, then blind alleys, in which often, as proved, lurked the tip that had been lacking when one turned into them. More and more, as the search went on, one figure of earth was added to another, and it seems worthwhile to bring a large number of them together. Inevitably, in such a collection of man's attempts to draw the planet on which we live and its relations to the heavenly bodies by which it's surrounded, there will be surprisingly similar identifications, recognizations, even a query unity. There would be, too, in such a collection, enormous differences, opportunities for endless comparisons and endless wondering over the figures imagined by those supremely courageous men, the questioners of space. They are the men, anyway, at any time, who have looked up to the unanswering heavens and asked, what, where, and why are those lights in the sky? Who have looked down at the unanswering earth and asked, what is this land? that forever gives everything, even to me, my life, forever takes everything, even from my life. What are these waters around it that sustain its life and mine? This fire within it pours through its mountain tops and hearts its boiling springs, whose sparks lies still within the rock and wood from which my father's father first struck out their first fire. What is the air I breathe that is around the earth and within its secret caves? What is earth, and what am I? They are the men who have questioned not idly, but unceasingly, knowing all the while that to the tiny questioner below there is no great answer above, that any answer to the question born of this speck in space, that is a man, must be born in turn of its just in his questions, nothing more but nothing less. There is no equipment for this lone quest. There is only the main questioner and the universe. The great question, the answer lies within the man himself. If ever we once realize this, we can never call them anything but supreme adventurers, those men courageous enough to wonder, enough to question, enough to guess, at last boldly enough to say perhaps it is like this, and set down the image, even though it is no more than a small triangular peak of land rising from a watery waste, the arch of the heavens above it, and between it and heaven the sun and the moon and stars. For guesswork it is the beginning and the end of knowledge. For guesswork it is the beginning and the end of knowledge. Man's own answers to his own questions. They may be right or wrong, but they are his. Today we give scientific guesses a state or title. We call them hypotheses. They are nothing more than guesses shot into still unanswering space. The hypothesis, for instance, that the earth is an island, plain, mountain, or whatever, was first advanced when the first man of the first race drew the first figure of earth. The guess only that the figure of earth is oblated, spheroid, is of its own error. Our hypotheses are continually changing. One supplements another, and in turn discards for a new or old one. This has been the history of knowledge ever since the remote, notable day when the first brain, by sheer pressure of questioning, focused in a point that exploded into a guess. It is the process of inducing thinking that has carried on through man. The heaven and the earth have continued to revolve, whether his answers are right or wrong. Man could only not equip himself with this quest in space, but he has also equipped after a fashion. He had a few resources, a few means. First of all, long before science told him that he had within his body of all life of the world, he had a vague knowledge that he is an integratable part of the universe, and because he is a part of the universe, he had a vague knowledge of truth, or segments of truth. He had numbers, he had signs, he had characters, he had symbols. All these draw in the heavens before he drew them on earth. He had words. He had the capacity to be curious, the capacity to wonder, the capacity to draw analogies between seemingly unrelated things. From this scant handful of means, his faculties of guesswork developed. This is the whole story of all his perceptions of the universe and of his planet, for he has continuously dared the great adventure and has returned sometimes with pure gold. Just wanted to thank you all for tuning into my video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe, and you have a good afternoon or evening.